Hello everyone, and welcome to my video on schizophrenia. Do you know what schizophrenia is? Do you know what it's like to have schizophrenia? I'm going to tell you right now, you have to have had schizophrenia to know what it's like. Just listen for my own personal explanation. I was diagnosed with schizophrenia 25 years ago. All thoughts and actions that I went through have been graciously brought back to me in a positive way by the Lord Jesus Christ Himself. And I must emphasize that I've been healed. But I waited 5 years to see if it would last, and it did. I also want to explain why I use the name of Jesus to non-believers, simply because Jesus means as much to me as my own mother. Without him, I would never have been healed of this horrible disease, and in fact, I would not be writing to you about all my experiences. I would still be somewhere going through them. This is one point where I will tell you this is one point where I'll not tell you all how to deal with it, because I'm not an expert. Leave it to the professionals, folks. And this video does show a viewpoint of what I went through, and I'm only explaining the experiences that I've had in the last 25 years. It is by no means a cure-all for anyone that's going through this, but it's just what helped me in the last 25 years. One of the things that God used in my life was square dancing. In square dancing, you don't have the time to think about all your minor and major problems. You have to pay attention to what the caller or leader is saying. And the exercise helps immensely. I have not called or danced for over 5 years, and I miss it intensely. Here I will say that if you've not tried square dancing, don't knock it until you've tried it. There is an important social aspect to square dancing as well as the dancing itself in general. And in my case, it helped me forget about all my problems that I was going through at the time. And I danced with my partner for 20 years. Right through that 20 years of going through schizophrenia itself. I would like to write this personal testimony about myself. What is schizophrenia? Because I've been there. This may in fact cause a spiritual revelation among some of you who thought you might have known what schizophrenia is. And to help you better understand what schizophrenia is to the person who's going through it, I'm explaining the interior and exterior thoughts and actions that not only a full-blown schizophrenic has, but I am describing all mental illness, and to a point suicide, whether it be attempted or carried out fully. It is so simple it is not funny. Jesus told me tonight what schizophrenia is, and my experiences can confirm it, as I have been through all of it, schizophrenia. And I've been healed by the Lord Himself. But before tonight, I could not even begin to see the truth about schizophrenia. And Jesus told me quite simply what it was, and it could have only come from Jesus. To tell you all what I'm talking about, this relates to all of us. Not just the schizophrenic or the mentally ill. We're all drowning in a big sea of time, worries, emotions, stresses, and conflict. Only Jesus, who operates outside of this time, can step out into our moment in time, and He picks the time to reach down and save us from this drowning. He does this through others, through prayer, through worship, and through personal spiritual warfare coming from us. The reason that people reject Him is simple. The enemy traps some of us in the sea of time and conflict, and he does a good job of it. I will talk further on down in my writings on about how to reach this type of person. First of all, we have to show them love and patience. Also, we have to listen. One of the skills that has been lost in some people is a listening skill. We need to listen to the people that are hurting. To listen, I must stress that we need to let the person talk to us and not say anything negative to them. Keep it positive and let the Lord lead you in this. Then and only then can we understand a bit of what they are going through. And I must stress that it does not matter what is happening to that person. We need to listen and let the Lord tell us what to say. Again, being a good listener is half the battle. Show that person that you care about them. And in some cases, even if they're complete strangers, show them that you care. To get back to the mind of a schizophrenic, I want to talk more about the feelings that are inside of a person that has schizophrenia. Quite simply, it'll take a long, hard thought about this one. Schizophrenia is simply an analogy of a drowning man asking for a glass of water. In other words, if you really think about it, a drowning man is a person with schizophrenia. The water surrounding him or her, is all the emotions, stress, anxiety, delusions, panic attacks, grand misconceptions. I am describing everything that went around me at the time I was at my worst. To use these terms, I use these terms, inner feelings and outer feelings, in the next 3 paragraphs to explain these terms to someone that is not schizophrenic. I can say that someone who is schizophrenic has 2 levels of thinking. An inner feeling. This is the schizophrenic's own thoughts as perceived by themselves. Quite often, this person will also have an outer feeling. This is the thoughts that the schizophrenic perceives as thoughts of others, and not his or her own thoughts. To the schizophrenic, there are 2 levels of thought, and I can tell you this because I've been there. The second level of thoughts would be what we consider to be delusions. The problem comes from a conflict of these 2 thoughts, and it is a vicious circle that repeats itself over and over as the schizophrenic lives his life day by day. Here I would like to say that what I'm describing is how a schizophrenic feels inside, simply because I've been healed, and now can describe in detail what a person with schizophrenia feels like inside. The analogy of the drowning man describes the feelings inside, and often that person's outer feelings. I'm talking about his thoughts and words, and of course what that person can describe in the moment of not just psychotic episodes, but also in what she thinks is going on around themselves. It can be described as seeing through a dense fog. Scuba divers can relate to this. If you're diving and you're looking at a ship, you only see a bit of it at a time. This is what a schizophrenic sees. He sees a bit of things at a time, mostly things around himself. There's also a simple explanation also because a drowning man or woman is surrounded by water and he or she cannot see beyond it, I'm going to go off the extreme and use the analogy of a drowning person asking for water when water is all around that person. There is also a simple explanation for that too. When you look at a man asking for a glass of water, when he is drowning, physically he is drowning, and if he asks for a glass of water, meaning asking for basic help. He is so surrounded by water itself that since he cannot see that water or the surroundings, he might become very confused. And I'm only using this as an example of a drowning man, as a drowning man would never ask for a glass of water. But he might ask for help. The asking for a glass of water theory. I'm not talking about the actual asking for a glass of water, but using a metaphor of this concept to describe asking for something so illogical to that person that it may make some sense. But because he or she is in that deep fog in the mind, and it is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, doctors and nurses have been trained exactly right, and to everyone else, it does not make sense. Basically, because they've never been there. And now I would like to explain how this scenario can affect not only a schizophrenic, but anyone in general who has not received Jesus Christ. Like the drowning man, we are all drowning in time and thought. We can be even so preoccupied with ourselves that like anyone who is struggling, unless Jesus is directing us, we are lost. And it is more important that we allow him to direct us so that we can make sense to others. Listening to that small voice of Jesus is important. And if he gives you something, don't act immediately, but do write it down immediately. And that is what I was doing when I wrote this. But how do we as a body reach someone who is in this frame of mind? And that applies to anyone that is struggling. We need to first listen to them and show them interest in what they're going through. Also show your love in this and give them a big smile from day one of meeting them. Work with them. This could be your next door neighbor. It could be your co-worker, anyone who the Lord shows you that is struggling. The signs are obvious. It shows in their body language, their tone of voice, and their actions. Be the one to bring Jesus to them without bringing Jesus to them. This means heavy praying for them in private, away from them, even before trying to bring Jesus to them. There are many ways of doing this without words. Body language, smile, and of course praying for others about it. Praying with others about it. There is power in prayer. May I even suggest having worship music playing at a low volume while doing this. Let me explain this one. The enemy will try to fight both of these things, but since he cannot do both at the same time, he will attack the worship music because he feels more threatened by that, leaving us free to pray to Jesus. That's important, folks. And it's a good strategy. I'm using the two scenarios to explain in terms that everyone can understand from my viewpoint. Because again, I've been through it all. Now to explain schizophrenia from the viewpoint of water being around a drowning man, asking for a glass of water. It's quite simple. To someone with schizophrenia, their position, whether it be paranoid or something else, could be, and it's probably like that drowning man. Think about it. A man with unseen forces, much like the water, is surrounded by these unseen forces. For non-religious viewpoints, call them good and bad. He's also much surrounded by these forces that he's in the middle of it. And often spiritual or physical, he or she is so deeply involved in it they cannot see beyond their condition. That person is so involved with himself or herself, and I will say that it is a crisis here, and I will delve a little deeper into Jesus Christ's side of it. because that person is basically, in quotes, drowning, but not physically, he or she is often so confused that they may ask for help from the Lord himself. But the Lord sees that request and answers it. But you have to remember that the person may be still drowning and still confused, that he or she does not even see that help coming for others through prayer, supplication, and more important, Jesus himself. Remember, to that person, he is still drowning until he gets saved, in quotes, saved, not meaning spiritually saved, but saved from his position, the drowning position, who will not see it. I will not mention it, but can anyone see another important analogy here in this last statement? Basically, it has to come from someone who is a strong Christian before you can see it. The Lord has told me what it is, but I want to see some confirmation before I release the second analogy. So with a person getting back to the drowning man, person who is for some reason just being saved, he may be saved, but there are still consequences of the drowning. In a physical case, he may have water in his lungs and end up with coughing fits to get it out. In a spiritual case, that man may have gotten some relief, but if he is still in the water, quote unquote, he is in danger of drowning again. Now I am not saying that prayer and medication is wrong in this case, but to the person in this case, he is unable to see this, and to him it may be unwanted, because he or she does not see any immediate effect of this effort, and will often reject it, simply because he or she does not see any hope. Folks, you've got to show people hope when you're praying for them. You must. You've got to show them love. Without love, you have nothing. And you basically have to love yourself. So wait till you've earned that person's trust, and more importantly, not only show them love and hope, but do it in such a way that it is gradual. This is where I might get some disagreement. Too many people expect an immediate healing. No way. Not with schizophrenia. You may get an immediate healing, but 2 days later it comes back. It's like peeling an onion. You have to peel it off in layers. Yes, Jesus can do it. He can do it in an instant. But humans cannot. Somebody praying for you, unless Jesus decides to reach down in that moment of time and pull you out of it, it's not going to last. And you have to be ready. Often it does look like it will last. You have to use your judgment in this case. To be correct, you have to pray about it a lot regarding the person's condition. And some people with mental illness expect an immediate healing, and in some cases it happens. But you have to watch that person and watch them to see if there's any change that lasts for a long time. I mean 2, 3, 4 years, not 2, 3 months. Again, you have to watch that person to see if they do anything unexpected. In my case, I've done things that are unexpected, as how I know. In my case, I was healed for over 5 years before I could say I was totally healed. And I put all the glory to Jesus Christ. I hope that my experiences can be used by anyone that has never had schizophrenia and knows now what they are dealing with. As I have said, the Lord has revealed all this to me and has confirmed it with what I went through. I at this point want to explain that my theory not only describes schizophrenia, but all mental illness. And it's also a good explanation of why people commit or attempt to commit suicide. It means that the pain is just too much for them, and they can't handle it. So their only option out to them is suicide. So you must pray for them. At this point, I must stress that if you find out that someone has schizophrenia, just pray for them, and pray in a place where they're not around. There's a reason that I say this. The mind of a schizophrenic is very complicated. You never know what they may do. Again, let the experts handle it, but do pray for them. Enough said. One last question, and that is, are there any mental illness survivors here? And does and the Lord's little analogy make any sense at all to you? Thank you for watching, and have a good day.